Howdy, folks, and welcome back. Hope you're all blessed and doing okay out there. Well, for today's video, I present to you F-Units. Now, this book covers every original old F-Unit that EMD built. But they didn't stop there, and I'll talk about a bit more afterwards of what came after the last was made in this book. Anyway, let's take a look. The F-Unit became a very iconic locomotive built for the American Railroad. Beginning with the FT and sponsored her models over several years. General Motors F-Units is the actual title. The locomotive that revolutionized roading. And indeed it was. Before the F-Units you had yard switches, but this is what really gave the company its mainstay and its name. A variety of railroads bought these and used a variety of classic paint schemes, as I like to call them. And sadly, some of them aren't even around anymore. There's a handful of F-Units in preservation, and some are even operational. The closest ones to me are on the Great Fine Vintage Railroad. There's also some down in Galveston, which operate at the Galveston Railroad Museum. There's a Zephyr, one of the earliest locomotives from EMD. Well, diesel train sets, I should say. This was the first one built, EMD FT number 103. A simple looking 3-car set, and I believe this one has been preserved. There's a program about by a company called Mark One Video. This is what the inside of the car sheet looks like. It's actually pretty neat. All the triangles go in to hold up the locomotive itself. These were nicknamed covered wagons, and the front was described as either a bulldog or a babyface design. I don't know what to call it. I think it just looks cool altogether. So here's the first one, the FT, which started the whole thing. Now, if you look at each locomotive you see in here, besides the paint schemes, you will notice subtle differences in the model types. Probably the best looking of all was the Santa Fe's Warbot F-Unit paint. The Santa Fe's Warbot paint scheme they put on their F-Units. I am intrigued by them altogether. Burlington Route bought them. Everybody did. This was a revolution in railroading. Back then, this was considered brand new state-of-the-art technology. They didn't have computer screens, and they didn't really need them. The cabs, though, were kind of cramped in a way, but they worked. Diesel engines like this took diesel motors from trucks, and their streamlining was inspired by automobiles at the time. They were trying to win back passenger trains after the Depression and the war. And in some ways it worked. Feel free to pause any time to read about these awesome engines. Oh, a little bit out of frame. There we go. It was just amazing to see these things come roaring down the tracks. Some were even put into freight service because of how fast they were, but for the most part, these were used for passenger service. They were eye-catching and eye-pleasing altogether. I've seen videos of these things in operation, and they roared down the tracks. Each one was powered by a 567 type prime mover, producing what is known as classic train sound. To rail fans, that is. Back then, unlike nowadays, if you went to a train station, you could see 10 or 12 different trains lined up from 10 different railroads with a lot of paint schemes, probably on the F-Units on the front, which made it worth it. Now it's all Amtrak. F2. The F2 is a forgotten F-Unit locomotive. Not many people know there was an F2 built. But there were some built, and some railroads actually took them on. It was basically just the second part and a bit of an upgrade from the previous one. The 567 produced between 1,750 horsepower and 2,000 horsepower in these engines. I think the Ellens produced about 1,000 horsepower or more or less in the old yard switchers. Here's one that's well known, the F3. The F3 is probably the most popular one of all because everybody seems to want one and buy one. Lionel Trains, the oldest maker of trains in America, being around since 1900, made an F3 for the Santa Fe for their model in the 1940s, just like this one right here. To this day, that is their best-selling train ever made. And in fact, in any case, the Santa Fe War Bonnet is. Everybody wants one. I myself have one from Lionel and from Walthers at the time this is being made. Pardon me. Another thing is back then, the railroads really kept these trains clean and up and running. They go through a train wash every day. If I was in charge of a railway company, every siding would have a train wash on standby, and when the train rolled through, it would wash the whole thing top to bottom. You see, freight trains today, they're dirty looking. They don't really care or take pride in them, except for KCS. When KCS was where they really took care of their equipment. Yeah, this was truly the best-selling engine they made. The F3 is one of my personal favorites. Did I miss a page? I feel like I did. Just bear with me, guys. Nope, I did not. That happens. Yeah, there's the Frisco. Very nice. There's one with the big snowplow. I think, no, that's Union Pacific. The only other railway I know to have a snowplow that big is the Alaska State Road because of all the snow they have to push through. There's the Santa Fe again, just beautiful altogether. Oop. No, missed a page. I want you guys to see the whole thing. All these colorful pictures and black and white pictures. The F7. A very interesting engine. This was a later model, which was again upgradable from the F3. Oop. And these will last for a long time, and they would continue long after the F-unit classes were retired like this. Cleburne, Texas, where the Santa Fe Railway had a huge presence, had a shop, and a lot of the Santa Fe F7s were converted into what are known as converted F7s or CF7s. They took the cowling off the locomotive and put walkways around it, and they served their purpose well. Now there's a nice shot of the New York Central. Pretty cool. Looks like 3 different engines lined up there. The Southern. Pretty cool road right there. The sad thing for me is a lot of these railroads don't do this kind of stuff anymore. One gimmick that really worked back then was if you rode a passenger train and you were a businessman in charge of a cargo company, you would ship your freight with them, and it often worked. Now they don't do that kind of thing anymore, which I think is really sad. I wish we could bring back these trains, or have a heritage passenger service that would run trains like this. It's just too bad nobody wants to do that anymore. These train companies make billions of dollars a year. They could sink some in the passenger service and get rid of Amtrak. There's a Santa Fe right there. The Lionel engine I have is an F3 from the 1940s, number 2343, and I have a Walthers F7. Again, that's what I have at the time this is being made. There's a Black Widow locomotive right there for the SP. Very nice. And this is supposedly the last one built, the F9. And this is the first rendition of the freight bomb paint scheme that will be used later on later locomotives. Now the F9 had different variations. You have the FP9 and the FL9. The F9s were built for the Northeast for passenger service on the New Haven Railroad for the most part. And 2 of them currently work on the Grapevine Village Road, taking the train from Grapevine to the stockyards on most weekends during the year. One thing that made the FL9 unique was the fact, and there it is, was the fact that it had a pickup shoe on it for third rail operations. In New York City, after a disaster happened where one train smashed into another, steam trains were banned from entering the city, so when diesels came along, the idea was to have a pickup shoe on them. The tradition continues today with the Genesis locomotives now running through New York. And we end with this beautiful city, or this mountainscape, with some Burlington F units. Very nice. And I can't talk straight, I don't know why. And there's KCS on the back. So the FL9 was not the last one built by EMD. They made a few more. The F40PH, of course, as we all know, with tons of variations. The F69PH, which was an experimental locomotive made of 2 sets which hauled around the German ICE train when they were considered experimenting with the concept of high-speed rail in America. The F59PH and PHI, which, in my opinion, were the last successful and beautiful-looking locomotives built for the American commuter passenger service of America. And now the ugly F125. I'm not going to count that as an F unit, even though it has F in the name. So yeah, I forgot 2 more. The F45 and the FP45. Also, no, that counts as the F46. I was going to say the F40C. So yeah, there was just a variety of F units built over the time they came to be in service. Some still run today, a lot are preserved in museums, and tons of companies have made them in different gauges from Z to G, believe it or not. And I still think Lionel makes the best-selling ones of all time. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, please be safe around trains. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And remember, Jesus loves all of us. Happy rails, guys. See y'all next time.